I'm going to call this March 28th, 2016 meeting of the Coolidge City Council to order. And the first thing we will do is have an invocation by Pastor Johnson with the Community Presbyterian Church. Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance after the invocation.
Your Honor, members of the Council, Madam Clerk, and fellow people of Coolidge, it's a pleasure to be able to come here again. I'm beginning to recognize faces, and you make me feel welcome. There are several current events I'd be remiss in ignoring, and I'm not going to profess an ability to understand a religion other than my own, but I want to say that one thing that the events in Brussels point out is that local police are a significant factor in all of our safety. I want to thank the Coolidge Police and apologize for the times they have to respond when I fail properly to turn off the alarm at Community Presbyterian. But the second item is the horrid massacre, mainly of Christians, who were the stated target of the bomber in Lahore, Pakistan on Easter Sunday. An English pastor and poet wrote words about the Black Plague and deaths from it in Europe that yielded some famous lines, but what he said was this, commenting upon the tolling of funeral bells for victims of that plague, and I think we must consider this in all events. No man is an island entire of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. If so much as a cloud be washed away from it, then Europe is the lesser. Therefore do not ask for whom the death bell tolls. It tolls for thee. I'm grateful for the safety of people of all regions here in the United States, all religions here in the United States. Yet because I do believe what John Donne said, I believe the loss of all those lives, Christians, Muslims, no faith at all, matter to us all. Members of the Council, you may not see yourself as playing a role in making the world a better place, but you do. Just as no man is an island and a continent is composed of many clods, and there's no joke intended, so also the structure of freedom rests on a foundation of which you are indeed a part. May the Lord bless you and guide you as you work to strengthen that foundation. In the Lord's name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Norma, would you call the roll, please?
Yes. Councilmember Gilbert Lopez.
Here.
Councilmember Steve Hudson.
Here.
Councilmember Robert Huddleston.
Here.
Mayor John Thompson.
Here.
Vice Mayor Jackie Henry.
Here.
Councilmember Gary Lewis.
Here.
And Councilmember Tatiana Murrieta.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Under presentations, item number 4, the monthly report by the Coolidge Youth Coalition. And I see Mandy. There she is. Welcome.
Hello, Mayor and Council members. My name is Mandy Alexander. I'm with the Coolidge Youth Coalition. I'm excited to share some upcoming events and projects that CYC and our amazing Coolidge Prize students have been working on. CYC, in partnership with the City of Coolidge Youth Council, have joined together to create an awareness campaign in Coolidge on distracted driving. Last week, one of their projects went viral on social media. The students wrote, directed, and produced their own public service announcement, giving the public a good example of what deadly consequences texting and driving can have on our roadways. I would also like to give a shout out to the Arizona Governor's Youth Commission. They have provided CYC with these wait to text thumb rings. They have been a big hit out at all the events that CYC has attended, and they've been a big part of our citywide campaign. Now I would like to give some social media analytics to you, and this is about the Coolidge Pride, CYC, and the City of Coolidge Youth Council PSA. On CYC's Facebook alone, the video reached 10,500 people, just alone on CYC's Facebook. It also had 29 likes and 14 shares. So that's quite impressive. On Twitter, the PSA received 38 likes, 44 shares, and over 1,500 views. Again, that's just on CYC's social outlets. So with all these views and all these likes, it just gives it extra exposure. So when the numbers are all said and done, we believe this PSA was probably shown to around 50,000 people. So we're very, very excited about that. Big kudos to our Coolidge Pride and the City of Coolidge Youth Council students. And I was going to say, who knows, maybe the Arizona Department of Transportation will also share their message for anyone that has connections there. That would be amazing. My next update is on Grad Night. CYC will be hosting their 13th annual Safe and Sober Grad Night for Coolidge High School, and for the first time this year, we will also be hosting a Grad Night for Imagine Prep Coolidge. Both schools have been booked at Flipside Entertainment in Gilbert. The purpose of this event is to provide a safe, alcohol, and drug-free environment for our graduating seniors in Coolidge. There is no cost for the seniors to attend. CYC will host and transport the students to and from Flipside on May 26th and May 24th. There will be an all-you-can-eat buffet, bowling, arcades, laser tag, and much more. Prom and graduation are two events that youth tend to engage in risky behavior, which will also put them at risk on graduation night. Knowing this, it is our hope that by providing them a safe and sober grad night, this will not only keep them safe, but it will also help them have a memorable graduation. Alcohol is the #1 illegal substance of choice among youth, yet most students know that the consequences of drinking alcohol underage can lead to making poor decisions that can affect them for a lifetime. Statistics show that one of the largest underage drinking events is prom. CYC will be putting on our biannual DUI reenactment at Coolidge High School on April 28th. This event has shown to have a great impact on the students, setting in the reality of what can happen when it comes to drinking and driving. CYC has also been invited to have a prevention booth out at Country Thunder April 7th through 10th this year. CYC was not only offered to have a booth, but the Country Thunder staff also offered us additional promotional opportunities in an effort to help spread our prevention message. CYC staff and our Coolidge Pride Youth Group kids, we got to make our own PSAs on underage drinking and binge drinking. Those are the two substances that we're trying to promote awareness on. Also, Country Thunder put our logo on all of their printed materials, such as their tickets and passes. We will be handing out our Save a Life, Stop Underage Drinking bracelets at the festival. And CYC will also have a TV monitor showing our PSA continually throughout the event. To our knowledge, CYC is the first prevention coalition to be offered this amazing opportunity. It has been monumental for CYC to have such a strong prevention message in front of so many people. So, and also just one last thing, the Coolidge Youth Coalition is proudly reaching all schools in Coolidge with our community garden grant, including the Coolidge Alternative Program and CUSD Preschool. We're very excited. We're doing a healthy eating, healthy lifestyles campaign in Coolidge with our grant. So we're very excited to be reaching every school in Coolidge with that. So with that, thank you, Mayor and Council, for your continued support to our nonprofit organization. We could not do what we do without the help and support from our amazing Coolidge community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mandy. We appreciate it. You guys do a lot of good work. That was quite a video that they put out. Mr. Glass is okay, right? Okay. Mr. Glass is okay. Yes. They saw you. Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is going to be called to the public. This is the item that you have an opportunity to address the council. You have 3 to 5 minutes. When you come up, you'll have to come up to the podium and state your name and your address, and then you have 3 to 5 minutes to address us. We will not respond to your comments. I will say, if you want to talk about anything to do with the public transit, we have a public hearing on item number 22 to receive public comments regarding the FY 2016-2017 5311 transit application to ADOT. That one, I think, will be related to the bus service. If you want to speak to that, you may want to wait, because I'm going to move that agenda item up right behind the call to the public. So if you don't want to talk twice, just wait for after the call to the public, and then we'll move right into the public hearing. So in saying that, I would say if you want to speak at call to the public, please step forward.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Tonight, Speaking, I guess, from the Public Works Department, we have, as a community, been invited to attend a Rural Transportation Authority meeting tomorrow night from 5 to 7. I wish to invite each and every one of you and everybody in this room as well. This is a meeting that will be presented by Pinal County and the Central Arizona Governments in regards to putting together a regional transportation plan. They will be presenting their first cut at that plan, which is identifying several regional roads as well as some local road funding and transit funding through a half-cent sales tax. I invite each and every one of you to come to look at that plan, and also keep in mind that there are things on that plan right now that are indicating that it's not just a regional plan, but there are some local fund dollars available, and I would like to see some input from the citizens here in Coolidge in regards to that, that we also can request some of those local funds, and that message be brought forward to the group at the presentation. Also, in relationship to Coolidge Transit, there is some transit monies also being proposed as a part of this program. And again, it appears that this is going to be going to other communities besides Coolidge, keeping in mind that Coolidge has had their system in place since 1990, and we've been subsidizing it and also providing it on a regional basis. It would be nice to be able to put our voice forward to say, can we have a few of those dollars as well to help support that program in our community? So just wanted to put that forward and invite all of you to attend. It's tomorrow night from 5 to 7 here in this room. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that cares to address the council? Seeing no one get up and approach the podium, I will get out of the call of the public and move item number 22, the public hearing. Do we need a motion to go into the public hearing or no? Okay. Declare a public hearing on item number 22 to receive public comments regarding FFY 2016 and FFY 2017, the 5311 transit application to ADOT.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This evening we are holding our public hearing on our application for funding to continue both the Cotton Express and the CART transit programs. This year's application is in essence requesting level funding. We are proposing to continue the local circulator service here in Coolidge with 2 deviated fixed routes and our demand response bus, and then our intercity connection service between the communities of Florence, Coolidge, Central Arizona College, and Casa Grande. This year's application did require, per federal guidelines, the posting of our public hearing in the newspapers of general circulation. So we did advertise for 2 weeks in the Casa Grande Dispatch, the Florence paper, as well as the Coolidge Examiner. We also posted in our transit facility as well as on our transit buses that the public hearing would be held, and you did receive in your council packet a draft application. The application is very similar to last year's. We have proposed a slight increase on staffing, which hopefully will account and give us the flexibility to provide some services that are recommended in our transit plan, which should be completed by the end of May. However, because we've been very studious with our expenditures, we are actually not proposing any increase in our application. In essence, we're requesting level funding. We were able to move some funds around from other categories that have not been expended in the past. So this year, for federal year 2016, which would begin October 1 of 2015, we are putting forward a tentative application amount of $1,130,937. Last year, in our application, we asked for $1,180,000 in change, and we were awarded $1,127,000. So, in essence, we are recommending level funding based upon what we were awarded this year. With that, we do need to give an opportunity for staff to answer questions that council may have, and for anyone of the public who would like to comment on the service or our application for 2016. One new thing that ADOT did do is this year we are applying for 2016 funds as well as 2017 funds. They're hoping that by making a 2-year application cycle, Next year, instead of having to have complete public hearings, there can be a public input process, but also there'd be an opportunity to negotiate with ADOT for funding. So the application that you received and the information and was available to the public as well at the transit facility, 2017, we are actually asking for a lot more money. It's $1,735,000 and change. The reason for the drastic increase in 2017 is we are requesting the purchase of 2 buses. One bus would replace a unit under the Cotton Express program, and then one bus would replace one of the buses under the CART program. Those buses are fairly expensive, anywhere from $175,000 to $250,000 per unit. We are fortunate in most cases that we typically get capital funds awarded at a 90% federal participation and 10% local. However, when we write the application, we write it with the worst case scenario for our match, which would be 80-20. So you will see that second year in there. This is the first time ADOT's done this. They will negotiate with the city next year based upon our request and the funding that they have available, but this allows them to try to plan for 2017 what people's needs are. With that, I'd be happy to answer your questions and then open it up for the public to comment.
Mayor, thank you. Just, Jill, could you expound on the ridership? I know I've seen the buses full on some of the CART and regional, and so could you just
Sure.
talk about it a little, and the weekend service too?
Correct. Ridership has seen some fluctuations up and down. We still don't hit a completely steady trend. We are staying in the neighborhood of 25,000 trips per year here in Coolidge, which has been fairly consistent. We've seen a little bit of up and a little bit of down. What we did see last year is an increased ridership on the regional service CART. That went up to almost 30,000 trips from about 27,000. So the consultant that's been working with us on the transit plan is very happy with seeing some of our numbers. He proposes to have his recommendations on service to us by late May, which is why I put a little bit more for staffing and some other expenses. However, weekend service is one of those services that is asked for. We also get asked for more frequency. So instead of coming by every hour to a bus stop, maybe come by every half an hour for a portion of the day. His recommendation, to be honest, is not to start weekend service. He is not one of those advocates. He says it typically does not pencil out, but maybe to try something on a trial basis. So that's why we put a little bit of extra money in there, but he's still studying those 2 options.
No, I don't have anything, Mayor.
Thank you.
Jill, just for clarification for any possible misunderstandings, this is simply just to apply to receive our funding. This is in no way a step towards getting rid of or looking at getting rid of the transit, correct? It's just simply applying to
Correct.
receive the funds.
This is the process we have to go through to make our application, and historically we've had to apply every single year. Even if the city of Coolidge wants to continue transit, there is no guarantee that the federal match or the federal grant monies would be there unless you approve an application to go forward every year. In this case, we won't have to make a formal application next year because we're doing it now, but it is a process where it is not guaranteed. There's not an allocation every year to the city. We have to continue to provide good service. Council has to want the service, and our public must use the service in order to continue to be funded.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
How ironic he doesn't want to do weekends in as much as it's a losing proposition. Well, we up here know that. We have to subsidize it. But would it help? The RTA has some transit money available, and which will be spoken about tomorrow, maybe at the public hearing.
That is correct.
So may be beneficial for some of the citizens here that especially use public transit to show up.
I think it would be very helpful, and towards that end, we posted on the buses and in the terminal about the public hearing and have offered to our citizens the availability of another special bus so that they can make it to this meeting or the meeting tomorrow evening if they so desire.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And members of the public, do you have any comments regarding this item? It's a public hearing.
I think the clerk might have received some names.
Mayor, we have Gail Stone.
You can come up here if you want. You want to hold it or you want to stand here?
I'll just hold it because I'm short.
Okay.
I'm Gail Stone, and I've lived here 65 years. I've seen a lot of good stuff come and go, and we really don't have a lot of good stuff anymore. Stores and places to go for kids and stuff like that. We really don't. But now we have the dollar ride, and I think that's the best thing that we have, because all of us people that are disabled, we don't have no way to get to the store and get our groceries and get our medicine and all that. Like, you guys can just walk out in the morning and get in your car and go to work or whatever you have to do, but none of us can afford to do that because we're probably disabled and we have to go in a little cart or a walker or whatever. So we need this. So let's hope that the Lord has a hand in this and keeps it going. Thank you.
Thank you, Gil. Would you mind giving us your address for the record?
Oh, I live on Central.
Okay, thank you.
I know exactly where she lives.
Anyone else?
Mayor, we have Reggie Gregory.
Mr. Mayor, council members, good evening, I hope. I ride the bus. There is no one that I can say, oh, pick me up and you've got the rack on the back of your vehicle for my wheelchair. I walk from here to there and you're going to pick me up. I walk around my house and I thank God every day I can do that. But that bus is an integral part of this city, me and all these people. We need it. Whatever it takes to fight to keep it, please do, because it is important. The middle of the summer, I don't want to go from Val Cayenne to Walmart at 10, 11, 12 o'clock when we've hit 100, 115 and I'm out in the air, or in the winter when it's 30, 35. But that bus stops that from happening. It's important. It's needed. It's welcomed by the people of the city. Fight as much as possible, everybody, to keep it here, keep it going, and keep it ours. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's the only two I have.
Mayor, one item that I did forget to mention during our presentation, the public hearing is this evening. The actual application will be brought to council for your approval on April 11th. It is due to be submitted to ADOT by April 22nd. So you will see the full application on your next council agenda as well. And I don't know if there's anyone else from the public that maybe didn't sign up that wanted to speak.
Is there anybody else that wants to address the council on this issue?
State your name and where you live.
I'm Barbara Aldridge. I live 502 South 13th Place. This is one of the big reasons for you're having the bus is one of the big reasons I can come here as a snowbird. I'm here 6 to 8 months out of the year, and it's my way of getting to and from the stores for medication and going to the senior center. I'm able to drive some, but not in a great amount of traffic, and this has been a godsend for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Deborah Davis, and I live at 1040 North 9th Street, Heritage Glen Apartments. The shuttle is the only way I can get around, because I do not want to go out in the heat, in my hover-around, and so I'm able to go shopping, to my doctors, and everything. Otherwise, I would be stuck in my apartment and not be allowed, be able to go out hardly at all. So this is needed for all us disabled people.
Thank you.
We're being told you're not being heard in the back. Your mic's not working.
The mic's on. Still no?
Can you hear him in the back?
Jill.
No. Joe's saying he can't hear you.
Must have cut that out of the budget.
Cut the mayor off.
You're tall, you can reach it.
I'm Guadalupe Hernandez. I work at the Dow Center, and I ride the bus, but I don't need to ride the bus, but some ladies need to ride the bus. They ain't that young, and they ain't that old. They can't ride the bus because they can't make it to the store, or they can't make it to the house or to downtown. And if they don't ride this bus, I don't know what's going to happen. And I like it. And I like to ride the bus every day, from Monday to Tuesday and Thursday.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez.
Yeah, last year I talked to all the gentlemen and the ladies, but I come from Korea. My brother, he been here 35 years. He just left yesterday, making me sad. Only one brother here. I have a big family up there. They say, why you live in Coolidge? You better come back to home. I say, no, I love Coolidge. I'm going to stay here. That's why I stay. All the shuttle bus, all the associated, they're wonderful, beautiful. Then I love senior center too, wonderful senior center. All the members are wonderful, beautiful. I have the good company of cities, nice people. That's I love here, I stay here. I tell my family I want to stay here, Coolidge. I love Coolidge town. Then all the people nice, wonderful. Then good United States, America too. Thank you. God bless you, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Get her name. She signed it. I'll get her name up there. He signed it.
That looks like that might be it. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. We appreciate the input. As Jill said, we will be. It'll be on the agenda next council meeting, and
April 11th.
And we'll be able to vote on it at that time. So, but thank you for coming in and voicing your opinions, and I'm certain they'll be taken into consideration. We appreciate your input. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so now we need to get out of the close the public. I need a motion to close the public hearing, I guess.
You can just close it,
No,
Mr. Mayor.
just close.
Yep, you can just close it.
Out of the public hearing, that's easy.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay.
Perfect.
Now we will move into the business items for consent. And due to the number of items on the consent agenda, I did discuss with our council today that we don't have to read all the items. So what I'm going to do in this circumstance tonight is I'm going to ask if there are any items on the consent agenda, 5 through 21, that need to be pulled off of the agenda by any member of the council.
John?
Yep.
Or Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry. 17, 20, and 21.
Okay. All right.
7. 17, 20, 21, 7.
17, 20, 21, and 7,
And
I
7,
believe it was
okay.
that, yeah.
20 and 21.
I didn't pull it, no.
Were there any others?
All right.
Speak of it.
All right, so what we'll do is I will look for a motion to approve the consent agenda items other than 7, 17, 20, and 21.
Mayor,
And
with
there's
no further
7 too.
discussion, I make a motion that we approve all the consent agenda items except for number 7, number 17, number 20, and number 21.
Second.
Okay. There's a motion and a second. I'm sure, are there some ordinances? in
Yes,
there?
there's a resolution, Mr. Mayor.
Resolutions? Okay.
Yes.
Then this will be a roll call.
Okay. And let me make sure, I think we just have the one, let me just make sure. So just the one, okay. Councilmember Huddleston?
Yes.
Councilmember Hudson?
Yes.
Councilmember Lopez?
Yes.
Councilmember Murieta?
Yes.
Councilmember Lewis?
No.
Vice Mayor Henry?
Yes.
And Mayor Thompson?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move into item number 7. Consider approval of accepting a Governor's Office of Highway Safety, a GOHS 2016 Buckle Up Arizona Enforcement Campaign Grant, contract number 2016 CIOT-005 in the amount of $3,000 awarded to the Coolidge Police Department for expenditures related to the 2016 Buckle Up Arizona It's a Law Enforcement Campaign, authorizing the city manager and police chief to execute the GOHS contract, and that would be Chief Malinsky. Welcome.
Mayor Thompson, Vice Mayor Henry, and council members, and Councilmember Lewis. Police staff recommends that the City Council approve entering into the grant agreement and the acceptance of the 2016 GOHS grant funds and expenditure related to the 2016 Buckle Up Arizona It's the Law Enforcement Campaign in the amount of $3,000 to pay for personnel and employee-related expenses, that being overtime. The Coolidge Police Department has applied for and been awarded the 2016 Buckle Up Arizona It's the Law Enforcement Campaign Grant. The grant funding in the amount of $3,000 is for officer-related overtime, seatbelt/traffic enforcement during the 2-week period of May 23, 2016 through June 5, 2016. To enhance seatbelt usage throughout the city of Coolidge, staff is requesting approval to move forward with the grant. This is a fully awarded grant, and there are no match fund requirements. This is a $3,000 positive impact used to pay for officer overtime for traffic enforcement, and I'll be happy to answer any questions I can.
That was mine, and I think our police department does an excellent job, and Police Chief, Jim, I just think you guys do an awesome job. However, here's the thing. The first time I learned about this, I was listening to Sheriff Mack, and he explained the difference between law enforcement and peace officers. And I am just not a fan of getting extra federal tax money to pull other. Am I right? Am I getting this right? That this gives us the opportunity to kind of set up stations to where we can pull people over, kind of like a checkpoint, to see if they're wearing seatbelts, and it pays for their overtime.
No, it would not act as a checkpoint. The officers would just drive drive the streets as they normally would, other than the fact that those officers working this detail would not be taking calls for service.
They'd be looking just for seatbelt violations, stuff like that, traffic.
Okay.
And other traffic violations.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to be able to vote no on that, just because I'm not a fan of law enforcement. I would rather us have a concept of peacekeepers and peace officers, and it's just more federal funding that provides me that. So I still think you guys do a great job.
I appreciate that. The idea is that because so many lives are lost due to the fact that people do not wear seatbelts, that's the purpose, to try and enforce that with citizens and folks that come through our city.
I understand.
Okay, anybody else?
Here.
Yes, sir.
I'd just like to say, not everybody has a little 5-year-old daughter that as soon as you get in, if you don't put your seatbelt on, she starts, "Daddy, seatbelt, seatbelt." So it's really important, especially for the children, I think, to make people aware of that, because people get in a hurry, they take off, they don't put seatbelts on as part of law enforcement. So I support it, and I'd make the motion to approve item number 7.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We'll also be pre-warning citizens before this occurs, both on the police department Facebook and with an article in the newspaper prior to it occurring, letting everyone know ahead of time that we're going to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Item 17, resolution number 16-05, a resolution of the City of Coolidge, Arizona, ratifying the Coolidge Volunteer Fire Department Qualified Pension Plan and the 1991 amendment thereto, and repealing resolution 01-10 regarding amending the normal retirement age. Chief?
Okay, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. When I first got here, one of the tasks I was given was to review the volunteer pension plan and to update it as necessary so that we were in compliance with the law. What we found is we had a couple of a resolution and an amendment that had been passed that were conflicting. We did use an ERISA attorney on behalf of the volunteer firefighters themselves, and then we also ran it through the city attorney, and what we came back was the recommendation to just basically accept the original plan and Amendment 1. The original resolution that the council did is being repealed because under, I believe it's IRS, I'm sure Mr. Fitzgibbons could probably correct me if I'm wrong, under the IRS, we're required to have it set at 62, not 65. So, and with that, the pension plan would be in full effect, and basically it requires volunteer firefighters to do 25 years, or they can do 20 if they hit age 62, and then they can collect their money. And basically, the employee puts in 5% of their stipend. The city matches that 5%. Every year, we, through the state fire marshal, go after the fire tax premium that is charged through all the insurance companies for anyone that has a fire insurance policy. And we take that and also invest that along with the other monies. So,
okay.
I'll take any questions that you have.
Just two quick questions.
Okay.
So I read through it, and I have a hard time seeing the changes. So the changes just the ages? Is that what it is? Is bringing
Yes.
the ages to?
Yes, we're basically, you're ratifying the original plan and Amendment 1, which is what our third-party administrator's been using, but there was that resolution sitting out there, and it had the age 65, which we cannot use.
Okay.
So this basically is just consolidating it, cleaning it up, and re-ratifying it so that we can move forward.
Okay, and then reading through, there was one item that referenced 3 gentlemen's names for the personnel board. One of those names, I know the subject's deceased, so we updated that board at all?
Yes.
I think those are the original trustees of the trust.
Those were the original, right, original
The trust was
trustees.
created.
So is that changing? Because that's something I noticed too. I think that.
Yeah, actually, it has changed since then,
Okay.
but we didn't want to muddy it up any more than we had. So,
that'd get
but that's
fixed
something
then.
that's been changed throughout time,
Okay.
through elections within the board.
Okay, I was just making sure that I saw the name and I worked for the guys. Like he's not with us anymore, so I'm curious why he's still on.
Right. And Richard Platt is on the board, but being that he's now in the court over there in Pinal County, I believe we need to change that. And he was actually the mayor's representative under Mayor Shope. So it'll be up to Mayor Thompson if he wants to sit on the board or appoint somebody as we move forward.
I don't think he'll be able to sit on the board.
I don't think he can.
No, not judicial ethics. I don't think he's going to be able
Right.
to do that. And I noticed a couple of things. One, I think they automatically, we didn't have to appoint somebody. If you read further in there, I believe somebody automatically comes on some of those, the positions you're talking about. But there was supposed to be some meeting every year, at least one.
Right.
And we didn't have that in 2015.
We did not have one in 2015. We need to correct that as soon as possible, but we started this process actually back in October, November of 14. So it's the whole pension plan's been in limbo this whole entire year while we work through all the different issues.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all I had.
Thank you, Mayor. And I also spoke to some, as I talked to you earlier, some of the volunteer firefighters, and I know some of the full-time firefighters were also wanting to make sure that everything was correct for the volunteers because it's such an important part of our staffing in the city. So I know it's thank you for taking this on and fixing it and making sure it's correct. I think the next step would be looking at and how they're compensated. So
Right.
thank
And
you
we're
very
actually have already started the process of bringing the actuaries up to date
Wonderful.
as part of this process. So hopefully quickly we'll have a meeting and we can move forward with all of that.
much. Great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, anybody else?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, this is, well, we'll need,
Motion to approve?
Second.
okay, there's a motion and a second. This is a resolution. Norma, I guess we'll need a roll call vote.
Vice Mayor Henry,
Yes.
Councilmember Lewis,
Yes.
Councilmember Murrieta,
Yes.
Councilmember Lopez,
Yes.
Councilmember Hudson,
Yes.
Councilmember Huddleston,
Yes.
and Mayor Thompson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving to item number 20. Consider approval to unfreeze capital sales tax funds in the amount of $15,000 to purchase wildland fire-style personnel protective equipment. Chief, that's you.
Yes, wildland fire is by definition pretty much any type of grass fire, tree fire. It can include farm field fires, roadside fires. Generally, people envision the wildland forest fires that they see on TV that are, usually big and dramatic. But even just some of the small brush fires and grass fires that we have around here are fairly dangerous. The purpose of the wildland fire gear is the pants are made of like a Nomex and Kevlar mix blend, and they're like wearing a pair of Levi's, as opposed to our structure gear, which is extremely heavy, multiple layers, and extremely hot. The brush shirts are just a Nomex shirt. They can also be a Nomex Kevlar blend like the pants. Once again, much lighter, much cooler, and it allows much more ability to be nimble. Also, under NFPA and anyone that's paid attention to the Granite Mountain hot shots and the Yarnell incident, big issue over fire shelters. I really don't expect us to ever use fire shelters, but if we ever need them, I would prefer to have them there so that we don't assume that liability. And quite frankly, it is an FPA requirement, even if it's just a roadside fire, that they be available. So I would liken it to if we were to go out and do gardening right now in our turnouts, it would be like putting on your favorite ski pants, ski jacket, what have you, and going out in the middle of summer and doing it versus just a cotton t-shirt and a pair of pants. So I don't know if that answers the questions that you guys had, but
Chief, hold on.
fire away.
Who went? Okay, Councilmember Lewis.
So we currently don't have wildland uniforms for the guys.
No.
How often would we need to use these?
Last year we had 6 wildland fires that I can think of off the top of my head where it would have been appropriate to use them. And also last year we had about 5 or 6 times where we did the controlled burning out by the airport to get rid of the brush and the slash out there. It would have been appropriate for that. I was able to borrow a few pieces, and I had a few pieces from days gone by that I allowed the guys to wear so that they were protected and it was appropriate for that event, but that by no stretch of the imagination is appropriate for long-term use, nor does it cover everybody. So,
With the addition of these style of uniforms, would the Coolidge Fire Department be able to volunteer other agencies when they have wildland fires that they're asking for help, like Granite Mountain, stuff like that, when they need people to help?
Somewhere in the future, hopefully we'll have a cooperative agreement with the State Forestry Department. Through that, any state land fires like around the airport, we could then bill the state and recoup our losses on that. And through our mutual aid, we can right now go out and assist Florence or anyone else that has a wildland fire, but we're kind of shying away from that until we get the appropriate equipment, because it's just unsafe to have the guys out there getting dehydrated in a matter of minutes.
But with this, we can expand.
We can expand.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, and actually with the state contract, I mean, if we wanted to, we could then put ourselves in rotation for some of the larger fires with the intent of gaining revenue, if that's where we want to go. But for right now, I just want to protect us locally.
Okay, perfect.
That's a topic for another time, but we have 4 full-time guys to cover 65
Well, I'm not saying let's go rush out and fight all the forest fires. I'm just seeing this equipment could possibly in the long run have more uses out of it than fighting a stack of hay in Coolidge.
Before you, Chief, I'm curious, when they go out when they get called out, are they going to have time to change clothes, or, I mean, what's the deal?
Well, generally the wildlife pants are fairly loose fitting, so they can pull that over their boots and get it on fairly quickly. The shirt you just put on over the top of your T-shirt. It's not like you're completely changing uniforms. It's similar to turnouts.
All right, I was just curious. Okay, go ahead, Ron.
Well, you mentioned hot shots, and the picture I always had was something like if you were up in Flagstaff, big trees, we're talking massive wildfire. Where do we have locations that we're covering that would be like that? Do we have?
Well, I mentioned that because of the liability that's applied by OSHA if you don't have the proper equipment. The need for it is even if one of the farm fields down here catches fire, that would be the appropriate uniform to wear. Letting them go out there in shorts and a T-shirt would be inappropriate. Expecting them to wear turnouts would be overkill and probably actually more dangerous than the shorts and T-shirt, to be honest. So it's anytime that we have a roadside fire where there's grass, shrubs, it doesn't have to be a forest.
Bales of hay.
Right.
Okay. Anybody have anything else?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion to approve in a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Number 21. Resolution number 16-06, a resolution of the mayor and the city council of the city of Coolidge, Arizona, approving submission of an application for Proposition 202 grant funds from the Gila River Indian Community and approving the acceptance and use of the funds towards the cost of rehabilitating the San Carlos Irrigation Project Old Main Office Building for use as a new fire station. Chief, that's you.
Yep, me again. We've put in for the old BIA GRIC building at 255 West Roosevelt. We have been told that we are receiving that building. There's a paperwork process that's currently in process. Once we receive that, we need to rehabilitate that building for purposes of a fire department. We're actually looking at Gila River because that project would actually fit into their old Prop 202 funding, and what we're actually asking for is actually $250,000 for 2 consecutive years, so that comes up to $500,000 that we can use to rehab that building. We've estimated somewhere around $1 million, $1.1 million when we were applying for the building to completely rehab it and remodel it to be used as a fire station, including adding truck bays. We see this as a good opportunity to get a big chunk of that money through the gaming compact so that we can do that work quickly. So.
Chief, I guess I don't recall. I didn't know that we actually, does this thing work? No? I don't know that we actually approved that. I think what I remember is we were waiting on some more information. Maybe we did. Maybe they can read back some minutes and tell me they voted on it. But I thought what we were doing with that building was we were waiting on some information to move forward. Am I wrong, Jill?
Oh.
And I also think when we talked about rehab, we talked about there was time limitations, and it become a financial thing for at least me, that we didn't have the funding to go ahead. And I almost, didn't they have something that we had to get so many things accomplished in a certain amount of time if we took that building?
Mayor, Council, we did put a full application for the transfer of that building to Government Services Administration over a year ago. I don't have that full file with me. There is a time table that was put together as part of the application. However, that was developed by the city of Coolidge, not by the feds. We said we would complete the rehabilitation of the building over 6 years, and we had about a $1.1 million price tag on all the repairs. The application that we put forward was for the building to transfer to us, and it is restricted in use as a fire facility, so it could not be used for anything else. GSA out of San Francisco is actually going through the process to do the transfer of that title to us and has been working on that paperwork over the last couple of months. So I guess at any point, council could say, we put the application forward, but things have changed, and maybe that's not a building that you want to receive. It is a vacant building in the downtown now. Unfortunately, it's had a lot of weeds, and I know we've had a code enforcement action against it to get it cleaned up because it was looking a bit unsightly. And the goal was to have a vacant building transformed into something that was useful for the city of Coolidge. But we did put the whole application forward that we wanted the building, and we came up with a timeline for each year for 6 years for 1.1 million. The goal was always to apply for Proposition 202 funds from the tribes. If that did not come through, then the city would have to consider putting some of its resources in.
Okay, so even if we got the $500,000, that and it was a 2-year deal on that, we'd still have to come up with $600,000 for the remaining 4 years.
Correct. And at this point, I've not seen the full transfer agreement. If they put timelines in there, they'd asked for timelines for us, but the sample agreement that I reviewed to transfer the property did not have any timelines on when it had to be open and when the repairs had to be completed. We just would have a restriction that it could be only used for fire, for public safety fire services.
Sure thought there were timelines on that thing. Okay, Councilmember Lewis.
I actually agree with you, and I think you're correct, Mayor, because it was one of the things that I argued against when we talked about it a year ago. The reason why I voted no on applying for this grant or for the building is because we were told that the feds would have a time restriction. Not that we requested one or put in for one. We were specifically told that the feds, because I wanted clarification, are they going to tell us 3 years, 5 years? And nobody knew that answer, other than there's going to be a timeline. Not that we put it on ourselves. I think putting a timeline on ourselves is probably not a good idea. But yeah, that's what was told. That's why I know 2 of us voted no on it, was for that specific reason. So,
Mayor, council member.
If you went back and looked at minutes, you would see that that's what was said.
Yeah, in our application, it clearly states it was a 6-year timeline for 1.1 million, and each of the 6 years, the different activities were broken out in our application that went forward. So we can pull the records for you. Again, I'm not seeing the final documents. We had a template come from another transfer of a building in California, and I can't remember any years or actual funding commitments that were confirmed by year, but we can check into that for you as well.
So what happens if we don't get the $500,000? I mean, can we pull out of the deal, or I mean, I'm just curious, because if we're stuck with $1.1 million building that we have to repair, and we don't have the money to do it, and we don't even get the $500,000, I mean, we're stuck with that building? I thought there was a get-out clause. I just don't remember us.
Well, the final transfer of the building has not occurred. Okay. So an application has been made. The application identified we thought we could rehab it over 6 years, and there was a dollar amount as well as activities that would need to be completed each year over those 6 years. Until council accepts the transfer of the building, I would imagine there's a get-out clause. After transfer of the building, if council did not want to or did not have the resources, I'm sure our attorneys could recommend language into that transfer that we could give the building back to the federal government. The building is always going to have a covenant against it for its historic nature, and it's also going to have a clause in the dedication that it must be used for a fire facility. If it is no longer used for a fire facility, then the feds may step in and take that building back from the city. But that is how it's being transferred to us, as a fire use facility.
See, and I don't have a problem with it being used as a fire use facility. The problem I have is, well, you were at the budget hearing tonight. I mean, you know, so what if we apply for the grant and move forward, and 1, we don't get the grant, or 2, we get it, but we don't see any way of doing anything else? Are we still, is that it, Dennis? Are we stuck, or do you know?
Well, I think at this point, all we've done is applied for the grant. I don't know if there's going to be an agreement that they're going to provide to us that would show what the city's obligations are based on the application we submitted, and then we could decide whether it's something we can live with at that time.
Yeah, we have a preliminary that's been sent over to your staff for review. It has not been finalized for the transfer of this building. They were holding and waiting for a nonprofit entity that was historic in nature that could possibly hold the covenants. So GSA is actually talking with the Coolidge Historical Society to see if they could hold the covenant. This building does have a historic exterior, so the State Historic Preservation Office as well the Federal Historic Preservation are going to want to make sure the exterior of that building is maintained. SHPO has concurred with us, that's the State Historic Preservation Officer, that the interior could be modified. There is nothing significant in the interior, but the exterior of the building does have some significance historically.
Okay, so I guess if we went forward, if the vote was to move forward with this, we could still have an option if things didn't work out for us.
That is correct.
Just I think to Dennis, correct me if I'm wrong, Mayor, but I think what maybe he was asking was if we get the building and get the grant for the 2 years to put the 500 grand to it, but then we can't come up with the money for the next 4 years, then what happens? Because then now we took free money to do a building, we can't do anything with it. So are we looking at possible repercussions there? Or
You know,
could you
I
work
think
something in?
yeah, I would think that at that point we'd probably have to look in and see, because the question you're asking about what's our obligation to Gila River.
Yeah, because if we take their money for 2 years, put
Right.
it towards the building, and then we can't fulfill our funding for the next 4 years for the time frame we gave, then what happens? If we give the money back to the government, now they're getting a building back with $500,000 of improvements that another community gave to us to do, you know what I mean? See what I'm saying? So is there something we could work language into to protect us from that? In case we had to give it back, that we wouldn't anger Gila River from giving us any more grant money that we didn't follow through with?
I mean, I think we could potentially, I mean, Gila River usually has a very specific agreement that we talk about, and if we don't use the money, then we have to give the money back. I don't think, I'm not sure if I recall what would happen if it was already put into improvements into a building. I would assume with each application, we would say what we're trying to do to this building, and we would meet that application if we were awarded the money. So I don't think when you look at each application, it's not saying to Gila River, listen, we're going to do a $1.5 million worth of improvements. This year, we're only asking you for $250,000. The application would say exactly what this application says, what we're asking for, and then we would invest that money in the building. So we would do exactly what we said we were doing, and then the following year, that would be a separate application that would stand on its own 2 feet.
Yeah. I think my concern is just not necessarily following through, at least doing what they ask us for the grant, but as another community, if we give somebody money for a project that they want to get into, and they use our money, but then they can't finish that project, I may be not quick to give them money the next time they ask for it. I mean, that's something I don't want to create any kind of bad relationship with any other community, because the Gila River has done a lot for us, and they've listed in their packet all the money they've granted to us. I mean, so I just wouldn't want to get into something that may not necessarily on paper violate the grant, but person to person upset them because we weren't able to follow through with our project, if that makes any sense.
Mayor, council member, if I can jump in here, the total request is for $500,000, $250,000 a year for 2 years. That money would cover basically 2 major activities. The one is replacing the roof. The building does have a roof that leaks, so there is some problems that continually occur during the monsoon season the most. And then interior-wise, we are suspicious of asbestos and lead-based paint. The $500,000 would be able to re-roof that building. It would be able to gut the interior and have some limited funds available for some office space and training room. The remaining $6,500 really are talking about repaving parking lots, adding in an apparatus bay, constructing crew quarters. There could be the opportunity to phase the use of this building so that if we did get the $500,000 from Gila River, we could do some of the basic repairs, get the building operational, and get it being used for part of its purpose, with still the hopes of being able to get for the remaining. The question then comes on the transfer of the property from the Government Services Administration, being very meticulous and looking at that agreement to make sure that any commitment on it moving to a full functioning fire station with apparatus bays gives us as long as possible, so that if there is a hiccup financially, that we don't have a shorter window to be able to do that. And again, the agreement I reviewed did not have any of those timelines, but the city attorney, myself, and the fire chief can work on that to make sure that it meets the best needs of the city.
Then what's the 6-year timeline then, if you're saying there's no?
In the application, we had to propose when we thought and how we thought the repairs would happen.
We'd be bound by that 6-year then if they accept it, right?
Not unless they put it in the covenants. It is our concept of what we propose to do. If it's not in the full covenants, then there may not be a way to monitor of what's going on. So we've not seen that final document. But we had to propose a timeline. It was our responsibility to do so.
I'm good.
Is there a timeline on this grant, this application for this grant? Do we have to meet a deadline to put it in?
The Gila River funding has a deadline of April 1st. All applications must be submitted to the tribe for consideration. If you don't submit by April 1st, you're basically waiting until next April to put the application
So
in.
if we put this application in and we find out, have Dennis look into it, you look into the transfer of the property, see if there's any other liability that we might have, but we can go ahead and put the grant in. If they award the grant, we don't have to take the grant, do we?
That is correct.
Okay.
We would hope that if we know in 2 months that it can't go forward, of course, we could send communication to the tribe to say, please pull us from consideration.
Okay, thank you.
Right, plus there's a contract, and council could just vote not to approve the contract.
That is
with
correct.
the tribe.
Thank you.
Good, well, that's somehow. Go ahead.
Either way, to get it full, Jill, either way, to get it fully functioning as a fire station, we're looking at, costing our budget, do we have an estimate over 6 years?
600.
We proposed 1.1 million.
But I mean, taking away their grants that we potentially get from Gila River, how much would it cost?
Then we're into it for about 600,000. However, we are still applying for other Prop 202 money through the other tribes, as well as next year through the AFG grant. There's a possibility we could apply for additional funding there. It is possible that by the time we're done in a couple of years, that this whole thing could just not cost the city anything if we get the other monies from the other sources. And I believe we've applied for this as a fire facility, so I'm not sure that we actually have to make it a fully functional fire station to fulfill the grant. That's or the contract for the acceptance of the building. So until we actually see that, we may not be committed to that.
Vice Mayor.
You apply for this grant through Gila River. Can you apply again through them for something, later on?
Yes.
Okay.
In the future, we can apply through them. We're waiting to see if Auction opens. There's Tohoto O'odham. There's San Carlos. There's Salt River, Fort McDowell. I mean, there's a whole bunch of tribes that have to, under the old Prop 202, provide money for public safety functions.
The last thing I have on this is, does anybody have any idea of how much that land and that building would be worth? Is there an opinion of value on that? If it was actually put together, completed, if you will? I mean, if we're spending 1.1 million, what would it be worth? If we had to go out and build one from the ground up that size and buy that amount of land, is there an estimate on what would be?
I was going to say.
Most fire stations that size are north of $3 million. The last one I heard built in Mesa was north of $6 million, and the one in Glendale was north of $10 million for a station with a small training facility attached to it, and it only houses three trucks. We're looking at putting 6 trucks in that facility.
And I see in phase 1 there was also one of the things was training. You were going to get it set up for training too.
Right. What we've envisioned is a couple administration offices to put the chief, potentially a fire marshal if we start doing lots of construction with those projects down south. And then we also proposed a training center that could be used for other purposes, not just firefighter training, but public classes that is hosted by the fire department, bringing in other agencies so that we can do cooperative training, and then eventually getting the firefighter crew quarters over there so that we can vacate the current building that we're in would be the ultimate goal.
Okay. Well, is there anybody else?
Mayor, thank you. One thing I do know about the feds, because we work with them quite a bit, is they don't want to keep that building. They want to get rid of it. So we've had some situations where we have to approach them to change some and negotiate, and they've been very open to that because they want to see it used, and they'd rather see a local community use it, because if they have to deal with all that, then they don't have the money either. So they're trying to find a way to get these buildings out. So if we had to use it for other things, I'm sure we could approach them. Say, hey, we want to use half this building for something. You don't think? We've done. Yeah, I mean, never say never. I mean,
on this application, it was unless you could figure out a public safety twist. This application was approved through FEMA, so it is restricted for FEMA activities, and they were very specific on this. So I know it's a hard one, but if it came to the point where the city couldn't do fire and there was no other option, they would probably entertain for something else, and they'd have to change the covenants against it. So we are going to be restricted on that for fire. So
and you can't do any police
she was
activity?
Really police could be, you could add a substation for police, that type of thing. But if you said now we want to use it for historical or economic development offices, there's going to be no way that doesn't fit the purpose, that type of thing. So we have to be very, very careful, and that's been the conversation from San Francisco the entire time.
Okay. Yeah, I know they've just been more, I guess recently they've been a lot more flexible than the past. That's our dealings with them, and so at different levels. So I would think it could include police if you had some. Yeah, I understand this public safety aspect of it, but I don't know that it would be completely locked into where you can do public safety related things and still not be out of compliance, So I think that would be.
Let's Gilbert.
Just one quick thing, and we'll move on, I guess. You gave us a quote for the living quarters. Is that just for 4 guys? Like for living quarters, just for 4 personnel?
Actually, I believe we could probably do 6 to 8 guys in there with the space we have. It's just a matter of how we design it and what we want to do with the space.
And the reason why I asked that, and I'm pretty sure you know where I'm going with it, have you looked at the possibility of having the local ambulance service built into that for the living quarters and put them out of that station, which would generate monthly rent revenue as well?
Actually, yes, and I've been approached actually to consider that even at our current station. Yeah. So yes, that was part of the thought process going forward.
Because I think working that into the planning, that will be more beneficial in the end too. That's revenue we'll put in, and then the ambulance and the fire service work together in that aspect as well. But, okay, that's all I got. Sorry.
Okay, thanks. Well, I mean, as long as we still have a way, if it falls apart, that we can get out without costing us money, I don't know why we wouldn't go forward, but if there's no other conversation, I would look for a motion to do something.
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve resolution number 16-06.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. This is resolution on.
Councilmember Murrieta?
Yes.
Councilmember Lewis?
No.
Vice Mayor Henry?
Yes.
Councilmember Huddleston?
No.
Councilmember Hudson?
Yes.
Councilmember Lopez?
Yes.
And Mayor Thompson?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, we're finally going to get into business, regular items.
Nice.
Consider approval of liquor license application number 09117002, submitted by Mr. Kim K. Kowalski for the new proposed Circle K store, number 3473, to be located at 1541 North Arizona Boulevard, Coolidge, Arizona. Who's got that? Who's the new Circle K store? Chief.
Mayor Thompson, Vice Mayor Henry, and council members. The police department has conducted the required investigation and has found no reason for the denial of Kim Kwiatkowski. Kwiatkowski is a bona fide resident of the state of Arizona. A background investigation was completed, and Kwiatkowski was not found to have anything in his background or with any of the board members listed in the application that would cause for the rejection of this application. The current liquor license is being transferred from Circle K Store, Inc., store number 2933, located at 1250 North Arizona Boulevard, Coolidge, Arizona, 85128, to the new store, actually I don't have a number for that, but the new business location, which will be at 1541 North Arizona Boulevard, Coolidge, Arizona, 85128. Based on the investigation completed, I see no reason to deny the application request.
Any questions?
No?
Down here?
No, sir.
Hearing none, I'd look for a motion.
Motion to approve is read.
Second.
Motion approved, read, and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The investigation, if you'll indulge me here just a moment, uncovered that Mr. Kim Kwiatkowski happens to be the son of one Vladimir Kwiatkowski, and anyone in the area of the valley and surrounding areas that grew up in there, that was a child in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, knows Mr. Vladimir Kwiatkowski better as Ladmo from the Wallace and Ladmo show, one of the longest-running children's shows.
Very nice, nice twist, Chief. I like
Thank
it.
you.
Very nice.
That is cool.
Oh, yeah, he was.
I caught him in the
His
80s.
so his son owns it. Sweet. Awesome.
So, it looks like, Chief, if they're moving the license, the North Circle K, the one, what we know as the North Circle K, is not gonna be there. Well, if it is, it won't have a liquor license.
Exactly, and that's the best that I know right now.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Item number 24. Consider the acceptance of the letter of resignation submitted by City Manager Robert Flatley. I don't know what you can say. I've been on the council. Gilbert was here when they hired Bob, and I was here a year after.
Remember the interviews?
Yeah. He got us through, not many city managers last 15 years anyway.
Usually 5 years average.
Yeah, he's done a pretty good job, but unfortunately, there's circumstances dictate that I don't have, it'd be nice to have a party. I don't know what we're going to do, but anyways, I would, unless you guys want to make a comment, or we can just move on with the motion.
Mr. Mayor, real quick, I do have a little bit of announcement. I talked to Bob today about a time when we could properly acknowledge Bob and his accomplishments as city manager. He's, obviously a true friend and a very key part of the community building that's been going on here over the last 15 years. And talking with him today, we are planning right now April 29th from 6 to 8:30 p.m. at the Artisan Village of Coolidge. We're going to have a gathering to recognize Bob there. He and Victoria and their family members will be getting out lots of announcements to those that Bob has associated with through the League of Cities, former mayors and councils. I think we just need everybody, our staff, the Rotary Club, the Performing Arts Center. There's just a number of lives that Bob has impacted through his service here in the city. So that day, the 29th, from 6 to 8:30, we will have a small committee working together to properly get the word out, to send invitations. We'll probably end up catering just some refreshments there, and to recognize him appropriately for his service there at that time and place.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
6 to 8:30, April 29th.
Maybe we can get Councilman Lewis to make his famous sandwiches for us.
Ooh, cheesesteaks. Ooh.
Not for free. Give you a city discount.
Well, I tried.
City discount, he said.
Okay.
I'll work for free.
If there's nothing else, then I guess we need a motion.
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second on this item. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Item 25, consider approval of claims for the month of February 2016. Are there any questions on any of these claims?
No other discussion, Mayor. I make a motion that we approve agenda item 25 to pay our bills.
Second.
Got a motion, a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Not fast enough, baby.
Okay. Report from the mayor, council, and/or city manager. I'm gonna start down here with Councilperson Marietta.
Never enough. Talk about relay. Hey, come on, relay.
Hearing nothing, we'll move on to Councilor Lewis.
Don't really have much, but I do want to. I see this on Facebook every day. We have a lady in town. Her name's Pamela Watson. Her and her husband go to San Carlos Park on a daily basis and clean up the park after events and after just daily use. And she always posts lovely pictures of things that she finds, and they kind of encourage people, hey, don't make these messes. But today she made a post that this was going to be her last time doing the park due to the extreme miscare that our citizens are doing at the park. And if she wasn't posting the pictures, you can kind of tell maybe she's just making a big deal out of a small item, but she's posting pictures to show everybody what she's doing. And I think her and her husband are doing a great. They don't have to go out there and pick up the trash, and they've been doing it a while, so I hope maybe we could find some way to thank them for that. And I told her I was going to mention this tonight, that it's sad when someone's taking their own time, even though she's retired and probably has a little bit of spare time, to help clean up a park that technically we have employees who do that, and then people are still just don't take care of it themselves. Not pick up after your birthday party or you're playing with your dog or something. So it does speak volumes of the kind of citizens we do have, because we do have those willing to put hours of their own time. And I just think maybe as a city we need to work and appreciate someone like that and don't destroy the park, because if we don't take care of the parks, we're not going to have them, because the city can't dump money after money in the cleaning of a park if we're not willing as citizens to use it the proper way. So I just want to say I wanted to thank Ms. Watson and her husband in the meeting, although they're not here, for what they do. And I think as citizens we need to do a better part. And if we have any kind of gathering at any of our city parks, San Carlos seems to be the most favorite park, besides Walker Park, clean up after yourselves. It makes it easier for the employees and for Ms. Watson, who's doing a great job. That's it.
Sir, Vice Mayor. Councilmember Lopez.
Just reiterate thanks to Bob for all his years of hard work and helping us, and look forward to the gathering. I think that'd be wonderful. He also has a lot of people in Florida. I don't know if they travel here, but they know it. That, when I go to the league, I mean, we always talk about we're always welcome at the Florida State gathering because of Bob. So it's pretty nice. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I went to the Veterans Memorial Park rededication that happened a couple Saturdays ago, and what a fantastic event that was, and the turnout was phenomenal. And it's great to have that place at the Artisan Village that people can go in there every day and see the wall and see the people that sacrificed their life for our freedom. And it was a great event. And also attended the Coolidge Economic Development Committee meeting. And then this Saturday I played in a fundraiser golf tournament for the Elks that raises money for students and needy kids in the Coolidge, Florence area. So,
Councilmember Rowe.
Bob, I know if he sees this on TV, you will be sorely missed. He was the first man I met when I came to Coolidge as far as coming into the city council building. He was just great to me, let me come in the office and ask all kinds of questions. And my prayers are with you, and you'll be sorely missed. I also wanted to echo Gary's sentiments towards Mrs. Watson. It is the private citizens that really beef up our city. It can't be the government entities that do all the work. It's when the private citizens take on responsibilities like this, clean the parks, and just care and take on the responsibility themselves. I say kudos. Maybe all follow her example.
Thank you, sir. Rick?
First of all, thank you for your thoughts and prayers for me and my family, just for the recent passing of my mom. She's very special to me, and I appreciate your thoughts and prayers. And keep Bob in your prayers. It was good to talk to him today. But I want to report just briefly on Central Avenue. Things are looking great. I'm hearing lots of very positive comments. Kudos to Susanna and the Public Works Department and all those who participated in that. I know the businesses have kind of sacrificed a little bit, and we appreciate their patience during that construction project, but there are so many good things that are happening there, and we will continue to see some really good things happening along Central Avenue as a result of that improvement project. We just met recently with a group that's looking at putting on a cruise in on Main Street. This is a classic car cruise in. It's not a car show. On May the 14th, we're looking at a street closure, probably coming up on a council agenda to close off Main Street between Central and possibly Coolidge Avenue. That'll be up for your consideration. But this is another event that could bring, a sizable group here for a very important activity. Remember, as we mentioned earlier, the public hearing on the RTA tomorrow evening. We would encourage as many people to come to that as possible to express their thoughts and ideas and concerns regarding the RTA. Little League starts this Saturday. Ricky mentioned 9 a.m. and then T-ball the following Saturday. So that's always a good time of the year. A lot of the summer youth have been hired, upwards of almost 50 summer youth for employment in our parks, working on that. Meeting 1:30 this week. I'm trying to remember what date it is, Mayor. We're meeting with Ken Hall. I'm thinking it's Thursday. To meet with Ken Hall regarding the RTA. We did send out a request for proposals for the use of the former Chamber of Commerce building. I did have a meeting set up today to meet with any interested parties to that RFP. There was one group that did show up. I showed the building, and we'll be coming in with a proposal for you for them to use that property. The only people expressing an interest at this point is the Disabled American Veterans, and they're really a good group. And when you want to talk about the park in San Carlos, they really like the idea of participating and cleaning up some of the park and being an active participant in that park area, including some refurbishment of the memorial there below the flag and a little flower garden. You mentioned the Military Honor Park dedication. United States Air Force Academy just completed their gliding training out at the airport. I think they were there for about 10 days. I wasn't out there much because of being out of town in Tulsa, but I understand that things went very well. To give you an idea, they had 80 certifications with just one tow plane this year. I think Colorado, they had 4 tow planes. They had 0 certifications because of weather. So we want everybody to come to Coolidge because of the weather. Makes much more sense this time of year. We did open up an access, if you've not been out to the airport, an access to the North Apron for G&H Aerospace to make it a little more convenient to come out of their large hangar building to the North Apron between the electrical vault and the wrecker lease where he has his hangars. He has since expressed an interest in purchasing all of the material to put a better surface on that, and we'll work with him on trying to make that surface a little bit better, but he's very appreciative to that. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Rick. Vice Mayor, go ahead.
Councilmember Knott, I wanted to thank you and your staff and Susanna and her staff for all that you did out there for the Air Force. They really appreciated it. I talked to Matty, and he was very pleased with everything that, and they're looking forward to coming back.
Good. Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'll try to be brief. I hear you're on. The Veterans Park dedication was a really good event at the Artisan Village. If you didn't get a chance to go over and look at that honor wall, I suggest you do. It was a lot of work. I would guess there was probably between 200 to 300 people there. Council members Hudson and Lopez were there. We were there, and it was a really good event. I want to thank Ricky LaPaglia and his rec staff for a well-run. I've been to Easter egg hunts before that turned into riots. It was well-run. I didn't see any 2-year-olds get run over by 15-year-olds dashing for the egg. And so they came out. They did a great job. It went smooth. Didn't hear any complaints, which is unusual, as you guys know. And it went well. you mentioned the opening up the airport. I just wanted to make a comment on that. We have a number of, well, limited businesses really at the airport, and by opening up the area we opened up, we're going to give somebody else an opportunity maybe to get some airplanes out there in their hangar, which will generate revenue for the city through gas sales. And really, that airport belongs to the city of Coolidge, and we're paying money out of our money in town to keep it going, and we need to generate some revenue. So that was an action that was taken for that reason. The last thing I want to say is, and Ricky, did you leave? I don't know if you're here, but there looks like when you speak about park vandalism, when I was out at the Easter egg hunt, I did notice that they were vandalizing our garbage cans at Kenilworth, trying to tear the tops off of them, and they're metal, and I don't understand. But so, maybe we want to talk about putting some cameras up. We've talked about putting some cameras up there before to get an eye on these guys that are doing vandalism. But I want to encourage everybody to come out to here tomorrow. Is it between 5 and 7? And show up and voice your opinion. And I can tell you this. They've already had this traveling show at Saddlebrook. They had a big turnout. Those people down there are competing for the same things we're competing for. They want roadways, and they want that money spent. If that half-a-cent sales tax gets passed, we want it spent here. We don't want the Coolidge dollars going for roads in other communities. They showed up in Saddlebrook in big numbers. They had about 88 people. Where was the second one at? Apache Junction. So we need to get our Coolidge citizens out. Everybody here needs to show up and let the RTA know that Coolidge is a player in the game, and we need that money spent here. I think we figured it was almost $800,000 a year in revenue, and we have 12,000 residents. And if we had to settle for $300,000, that's the same amount that Mammoth, Superior, and Kearney would get, and the biggest town there is 2,800. So per capita, we're not doing very well. And they don't listen to you if you don't come to meetings and you don't come out and vote. So you better get out here and you better voice your opinion, or when you're paying that half-a-cent sales tax and you don't see any roads coming into Coolidge, you'll know why. We're doing what we can, but it's up to the citizens. They got to come out and participate. That's all I got to say. Thank you. I look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No? Opposed? We're adjourned.
We're adjourned.
This